My name is Jeff Cook. My background, I was in the military for 30 years, multiple MOSs, became a student of human behavior. I did another job. I can't go into too much detail on it, but it was a high-risk security job, and there were a lot of interesting interactions with people at that time, so I learned a lot about human behavior. I also worked as a zookeeper, specializing in herpetology, but also working with other animals here locally. About 9 years ago, during the wintertime, I walked into the north entrance of Myakka River State Park to get a little exercise. And it was a beautiful day. I could hear all sorts of wildlife, birds and whatnot. I got about 100 meters in from the north entrance and everything got quiet. And due to my background, I got a little paranoid, became watchful, and I proceeded down the road at a pretty good walking pace, and I came up to this oak tree. I walked past it and I felt that weird feeling that somebody or something was watching me. I looked to the right, I didn't see anything. I looked to the left over my shoulder, and very clearly was a hairy hominid, estimate about 8 feet tall. I made eye contact with it. Can't really tell you what I was thinking at the time. It was sort of like a Zen moment. Made eye contact, and this creature's eyes became wide, and I suspect mine did as well. And all I said was, "Hey!" And it turned around and it walked away from the game trail that it probably approached on and started walking back through some palmettos. What I noted about it, of course, was the very long gait, but also there was no head bob. It was a very smooth gait. The head did not bob. Occasionally, it would look over its shoulder at me and make eye contact. It wasn't just searching the area or looking into my chest. It made eye contact, and I felt that I was looking at a high level of intelligence when I looked into this thing's face. Trained by the military, I have to be very good at observation so I can report up the chain of command what I see. Gait was pretty long. Arms were proportionally longer than a man. Normal swinging gait, clearly bipedal. Occasionally it would slow down and look over its shoulder at me and make eye contact. And I didn't see it for very, very long. It was probably another 50 meters before it just disappeared. But there was no head bob. It was a very smooth gait, which I found quite interesting. And also the intelligent, non-panicked look in its eye. It had made a decision to depart, and it was comfortable with that decision. There was no look of panic, of excitement, very impassive.
What, if anything, could you distinguish about its facial features, or could you see those in the view you had?
I could initially see the facial features and the whole body. This creature had reddish brown hair. It was long. It covered the body. It was thinner on the chest. Thinner on the face, thinner in the groin area. By the way, it was a male. The facial features looked kind of like a morph between a human and a great ape, a gorilla, but I would say more human. Eyes were wide set apart because it had a very large head, larger than a human. The features looked proportional to the head. A somewhat flattened nose, flared nostrils, very impassive look other than the eyes. There was eye movement and eyebrow movement. When I came past that tree and looked to my left, it had what appeared to be a startled look on its face. But it did not bolt. It literally made eye contact with me and gave me a chill up my back. My own reaction was interesting as well because I carry concealed every day, and I had zero thought of the need to defend myself. I did not feel threatened by this creature. It was not exhibiting any aggressive behavior whatsoever, just a startled curiosity. And it only lasted, maybe about 15 seconds or so before I lost sight of it, but it seemed like hours once I hit that Zen moment and was able to observe clearly without any distraction whatsoever. And I was not walking. I was frozen in place when I was observing this until I lost sight of it. And then I continued on with my walk. I didn't leave. I just, I had a mission. That was get some exercise in, and I was going to do it, Bigfoot or not.
It's not your first encounter. You had an encounter
right
previous. Can you walk us through that from the beginning?
Yes, sir. This was about 40 years ago, and it was in a place in the Panhandle of Florida called Big Bend Wildlife Management Area. A very, very interesting place. It's got varied habitat, palmetto pine flatwoods, salt marsh swamp, freshwater swamp, meadows. Just a very interesting place with a lot of animals and a lot of animal and vegetation diversity. My buddy Steve and I were going up for the weekend to collect reptiles. I was a licensed reptile collector, and I was licensed to also do venomous reptile shows in the state of Florida. So we were going up there to do some collecting. We got up there on a Friday night. We had a routine. We had a place we always camped. It was right next to a quarry lake. And there was a small clearing, maybe 30, 40 feet in diameter. We would set up our tent. I'd park my truck next to the tent, one Coleman lantern on the hood, and there was a large branch from an oak tree that reached out into the center, and I would hang another Coleman lantern on that. We always did legally go armed because of people. People are the most dangerous animal in the woods. And up there, you can run into a lot of hunters. You can run into drug dealers, people picking up packages, if you know what I mean. So there's a little bit of nefarious activity, but nothing we were concerned with. We just went prepared. We had a handgun in the truck, and I had a K-bar combat knife as well. We had established camp at about 11 p.m. and, we broke out the beers, typical Florida man style. We started to have a couple of beers, did not get buzzed or drunk whatsoever. And we started hearing what we thought was a human in the swamp. And again, the clearing was lit up, and then there was a wall of vegetation right on the edge of the swamp. And it sounded like a person was walking back and forth, clearly a 2-footed animal. And we just assumed that it was a redneck messing with us. And it would walk back and forth, it would stop, We would hear some muttering that we couldn't quite make out. We would hear some grunting. Again, this was 40 years ago. We didn't have access to the internet. We didn't know anything about Bigfoot. I didn't know much about animals whatsoever at that point in my life. And so this thing would run towards us and stop just on the edge. And then we would hear it walk back. Then we would hear it run left to right. And we were talking to what we thought was a guy. We're like, come on, man, quit messing around. We'll give you a beer. There was never an answer. And this went on for about an hour, and we started getting concerned. Because whoever or whatever this was clearly on 2 feet, and it was persistent, would not go away. So Steve, out of a modicum of safety, he got the handgun out of my vehicle. I picked up the K-bar knife, and we were staring at the tree line because we heard no movement at all. And you could have heard a pin drop. All of the frogs had quit chirping. We just heard nothing. No whippoorwills, nothing. And we're staring at the tree line, and I suddenly saw, about 8 to 10 feet off the ground, I saw branches being spread apart. Clearly being spread apart. I could not see what was doing it because I was standing about 20 feet away. So I started to freak out. I snatched up the lantern off of the hood of my vehicle, and I did the counterintuitive thing. I charged at the thing that I feared the most, brandishing the knife, screaming, and I'm pretty quick on my feet. I got that, covered that 20 feet real quick, and I got there, and I was looking up at a face staring at me out of the wood line, and shocked look on its face. Again, it looked very similar to the creature I saw in Myakka River State Park. I can vividly remember it to this day, even though it was 40 years ago. In fact, I still have dreams about it because, again, I didn't know what Bigfoot was. All I knew was I was looking up at an 8-foot tall creature. I'm 6'1". I'm looking up at it. It's got reddish brown hair around its face. It had eyebrows, very thick. It had like a unibrow going all the way across, a flattened nose. Eyes were wide because I probably didn't expect a puny human to come running up screaming at it. And the eyes were wide set apart. And the mouth was actually open. And I know this looks funny, but it was kind of like that, and it let out a whoop, and it turned around and it hauled ass back through the swamp, and we didn't hear from it again, and we didn't get a wink of sleep that night. A few minutes later, the frogs started up again, the whippoorwills started up again, an armadillo wandered across our camp. Everything started to act normal again at that point. To this day, I don't know what to make of it. Now that I know about Bigfoot, I firmly believe that's what it was. The behavior was very similar to what has been reported and what I've experienced on other Bigfoot hunts, where you set up a camp, they'll come up to the camp, they'll make noise, sometimes they'll throw things into the camp to try to run you off, which again is a typical monkey and ape behavior. I've seen it personally. With caged monkeys at jungle gardens when I worked there. One capuchin monkey in particular, I won't tell you exactly what it did, but it involved a liquid and a biological semi-solid, and it was deadly accurate when it slung it at people. So it's a known behavior with primates to throw things. This one up in North Florida, I did not see it throw anything at all, but the running back and forth, the vocalizations, of course, seeing its face above my 6-foot tall head was an eye opener. But that's about all I have to report about that. I have thought about it for 40 years, trying to pull out more detail from my memory, but that's it. It was a very shocking and very profound experience. More profound than the second experience I had at Myakka River State Park, because this was my first experience and I had no clue what Bigfoot was or that it existed until that moment.